There are moments in life when everything feels quiet, when prayers seem unanswered, when doors don't just stay closed, they slam shut. You've tried, you've cried, you've fought, you've waited, and still nothing seems to move. But I want to tell you something today. That silence, that stillness, that waiting, that's not emptiness, that's expectancy. Because when God is about to give you something big, He often prepares you in silence. You see, God is not random, He is not careless, He is not hasty. God is strategic. God is precise. God is intentional. When He is about to do something major in your life, He often pulls you back like a bow and arrow. And yes, the pullback may hurt. Yes, it may feel like you're going backward. But it's only because He's preparing to launch you farther than you've ever gone before. Sometimes God will strip you before He blesses you. Not to punish you, but to prepare you. To detox your heart. To stretch your character. To remove the distractions. To test your patience, to increase your faith. When you're asking God, where are you? He's whispering, I'm closer than ever. Just hold on. Because when God gives, He doesn't give halfway. He doesn't give broken blessings. He doesn't give crumbs. When everything around you feels silent and motionless, it's easy to assume that nothing is happening. The waiting period can be deeply frustrating, especially when you've poured your heart into prayer, remained consistent in your efforts, and yet nothing appears to change. But what many people don't realize is that silence isn't absence, it's not punishment, it's not even a delay in the way we understand it. Oftentimes, silence is how God prepares you for something bigger than you can comprehend. Think of a seed. When it's buried in the soil, no one sees what's going on. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. But underground, in the unseen realm, transformation is taking place. Roots are forming. The seed is cracking open. Life is beginning. It's the same with us. In moments of stillness, when you're not getting the answers you want or the movement you crave, God is working under the surface of your life, preparing you for the growth to come. The silence is not a void. It's a womb. God doesn't waste anything, especially not time. He's making you wait. It's not because He forgot you or denied your request. It's because He's preparing both the blessing and you. You're not just being protected from premature success, you're being positioned for purposeful elevation. Sometimes the most powerful things require the most delicate and intentional preparation. Rushing what's divine can cause disaster. So in His mercy, God slows things down. He allows seasons of silence not to frustrate you, but to fortify you. This divine quietness often becomes a classroom. In it, you learn patience, not as a passive waiting, but as an active trust. You learn that faith isn't just believing when things go your way, it's trusting when nothing seems to be working. The silence trains you to rely less on what you see and more on what you know to be true about God's nature. He is faithful, He is good, He doesn't start something He doesn't intend to finish. So when you find yourself in a season of stillness, you must remind yourself that God's silence is not a sign of His absence, but rather a mark of His presence. This kind of preparation can feel lonely. It can feel like God is distant, like heaven is closed off, like you're the only one not moving forward. But don't let emotions trick you into believing lies. Emotions are real, but they're not always true. Truth is, you are being shaped in the unseen. Just because you can't see the result doesn't mean the process isn't happening. God's ways are higher than ours. He's orchestrating things in ways that you may not recognize until you look back in hindsight. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in life are birthed from seasons of quiet preparation. Moses was in the desert for 40 years before God used him to lead a nation. David was tending sheep in obscurity before becoming king. Jesus spent 30 years preparing for a ministry that lasted 3. The silence wasn't wasted in any of their lives, and it's not being wasted in yours either. What you think is a setback might actually be sacred space. What you call waiting, God may call working. Silence also filters your focus. When the noise is gone and you're no longer distracted by applause, approval, or attention, you're able to hear God more clearly. You're able to identify what matters. The deeper things get planted in you, not just surface-level inspiration, but conviction, endurance, and vision. This is the kind of foundation required for something big. God doesn't want to give you a temporary blessing. He wants to give you a lasting one. But lasting blessings need sturdy people. People with roots. People who can stand when storms come. People who aren't swayed by temporary discomfort. God is not interested in giving you something that will destroy you. He loves you too much for that. That's why He takes His time. That's why He allows this silence. because he knows that big dreams require deep preparation. You may be praying for more influence, more finances, a new opportunity, or healing in a relationship. And God may very well want to give you exactly that, or even more. But before he gives, he refines. Before he opens the door, he strengthens your legs so you can walk through it confidently and wisely. So if you're in a season of silence, don't give up. Don't think God has forgotten you. Instead, lean in. Ask him what he's teaching you, what he's growing in you. Use this time to deepen your prayer life, to clarify your vision, to build your character, because when God finally says, now, things can change in an instant. Doors you thought were closed forever can swing wide open. What felt like years of delay can suddenly shift into divine acceleration. And in that moment, you'll realize why the silence was necessary, why the stillness had to come first. You'll see that God wasn't just preparing a blessing for you, he was preparing you for the blessing. You'll understand that if he had answered your prayer too soon, you wouldn't have had the maturity to handle it. That the silence saved you from yourself. That it gave you roots so the wind wouldn't blow you away when your season of fruitfulness finally arrived. Waiting is hard. Silence is hard. But they are not empty. They are sacred. They are purposeful. They are holy ground. When God is about to give you something big, he often starts by pulling you into quiet places. Trust that. Trust him, because the silence may just be the sound of something amazing being born. Waiting is never easy. It tests your patience, your mindset, and your faith. You start to question whether what you asked for will ever come. You begin to wonder if maybe you misheard God or misunderstood the signs. Doubt creeps in quietly, and it feels like the longer you wait, the heavier your hope becomes. But the truth is this: when God delays something, it's never without purpose. A delay is not a denial. It's often the tool God uses to develop you for the very thing you've been asking him for. God is not just concerned with giving you blessings. He's concerned with building the kind of person who can carry blessings with integrity and strength. We often pray for the destination, but God focuses on the journey. We want to receive, but he wants us to be ready to receive. We want quick answers, but he wants lasting transformation. The waiting season is where all of that happens. It's where character is forged, pride is stripped away, and dependency on God is deepened. Think about it. If a child asks for a car at age 10, a loving parent wouldn't give it to them just because they asked, not because the car is bad, but because the child isn't ready. The timing would be off, and what was meant to be a blessing could easily become a burden or even a danger. In the same way, God sometimes holds things back because he knows that if he gave it too soon, it could harm you or crush you. He delays to protect you. He delays to prepare you. That season of delay becomes a divine classroom. You begin to learn things you wouldn't have learned otherwise. You develop spiritual muscles that can only be built through resistance. You gain wisdom, resilience, and depth. It's in these moments where your faith either deepens or withers, and that's the crossroads God brings us to, not to test us in a cruel way, but to refine our trust and our focus. Will you still believe when there's no evidence? Will you still walk forward when there's no clear sign? Will you still obey when it's difficult? God's greatest miracles often come after long periods of waiting. Abraham waited 25 years for the promise of Isaac. Joseph spent over a decade in slavery and prison before stepping into his purpose. David was anointed king, but had to wait years. Many of those spent running from danger before he took the throne. Even Jesus waited 30 years before beginning his public ministry. None of these stories suggest a God who is in a hurry. Rather, they reveal a God who is more concerned with who you become than how fast you arrive. What we call delay, God often calls development. And in that development, shifts your heart. He refines your desires. He begins to transform what you want into what you need. You may have started the waiting season praying for success, recognition, or wealth. But as God works in your heart, you may end up desiring wisdom, peace, and purpose instead. That's not failure, that's growth, that's maturity. That's exactly what God wants to produce in you during the delay. And let's not forget, sometimes the delay isn't even about you. Sometimes God is arranging things in the lives of others. He's aligning opportunities, setting up divine connections, preparing people you haven't even met yet, just like a director arranges every actor, every light, and every sound before the curtain rises. God is arranging your life so that when the moment comes, everything fits. You don't want a rushed result. You want the right result. And the right result takes time. This development period is also about breaking cycles. Maybe in the past you've self-sabotaged, you've let fear hold you back. You've made decisions based on pressure instead of purpose. God wants to end that pattern before you step into the next season. He wants to make sure that you're not just blessed, but stable. He wants your identity rooted in Him, not in the outcome. That's why the delay is often spiritual surgery, cutting away what's unhealthy, healing what's broken, and sealing what's sacred. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Growth always is. But the discomfort of delay is better than the disaster of premature arrival. You don't want to show up to a place unprepared. You don't want to carry influence without maturity. You don't want a platform without the strength to stand on it. The delay is God's mercy. It's His way of saying, I love you too much to let you walk into something before you're ready. When you understand this, the waiting becomes a little more bearable. Not because the pain goes away, but because you realize the pain has a purpose. You stop asking when and start asking what. What is God teaching me right now? What area of my life needs to grow? What in me is being healed, restructured, or renewed? Suddenly, you're not just enduring the delay, you're embracing the development. And here's the beautiful truth. Nothing is wasted. Not one tear. Not one moment of confusion. Not one lonely night. God bottles every tear and uses every moment to draw you closer to Him. He's not punishing you with waiting. He's preparing you for something greater than you even imagined. What's coming will make sense of what didn't. The prayers you whispered in desperation will echo in the celebration of answered promises. So don't despise the delay. Don't curse the process. Don't assume the silence means God has forgotten you. He hasn't. He's working in ways you cannot see. He's writing a story you're not done reading yet. When it all unfolds, when the door opens, when the breakthrough comes, you'll look back and realize that the delay wasn't a detour. It was the most direct path to the promise. Hold on. Keep praying. Keep growing. Keep trusting. Because the delay is not your enemy. It's the hand of a loving Father, shaping you into someone who can receive, sustain, and steward the big thing He's about to give. Sometimes before God blesses you, He strips things away. At first, this can feel cruel. You might ask, why would God take this away from me? Why would He allow me to lose something I care about? But the stripping isn't punishment, it's preparation. God doesn't remove to destroy. He removes to refine, to align, and to make space for what's better, stronger, and more purposeful. When God is about to do something big in your life, He often begins by taking things out of your life that cannot go with you into your next season. You see, every new level requires a new version of you. And some things, some habits, and even some people are only meant to be part of your life for a certain stage. Holding on to what was meant to be temporary can prevent you from stepping into what's meant to be permanent. But we, being human, often cling to comfort. We hold tightly to familiarity, even if it's toxic. We'd rather stay in a safe zone than risk the discomfort of the unknown. That's why God sometimes has to strip us, not because He's angry, but because we won't let go on our own. It could be a relationship that isn't helping you grow. It might be a job that pays well but keeps you spiritually empty. It might be an addiction to validation, attention, or approval. Whatever it is, if it's not part of God's plan for where He's taking you, He will allow it to be removed. And when that happens, you'll feel pain, you'll feel confused, you might even feel abandoned. But remember this, God never removes something from your life unless He plans to replace it with something great. Stripping comes before blessing because blessing requires space. If your hands are full of the old, how can you receive the new? If your heart is tied to what no longer serves you, how can it embrace what God wants to give you? Letting go hurts, but it is necessary. It's part of the divine process. Just like a gardener prunes branches not to harm the plant, but to help it produce more fruit, God prunes your life so that it can flourish in due time. This pruning often comes in the form of loss. And yes, it's okay to grieve, it's okay to cry, it's okay to miss what used to be. God understands your pain. He's not asking you to pretend you're fine. He's asking you to trust Him through the transition. Because on the other side of the pruning is a promise that what He has in store is greater than what was lost. But to get there, you have to walk through the valley of letting go. There's also a deeper reason for the stripping. God wants to test what you're anchored to. Are you anchored to Him or to outcomes? Are you following Him for who He is or only for what He gives? Stripping reveals where your faith truly lies. When everything is taken, what remains? When the applause fades, when the money disappears, when the support system crumbles, are you still standing? Are you still praising? Are you still seeking? If you can worship in the wilderness, God can trust you with the promised land. If you can stay faithful when nothing makes sense, God knows you'll be faithful when everything is flowing. The stripping season is where faith becomes real. It's where dependence shifts from self to God. It's where trust is no longer a theory but a lifestyle. You stop leaning on your own understanding and you start leaning fully on Him. And something beautiful happens during this process. As God removes what you thought you couldn't live without, He shows you that He is enough, that His grace truly is sufficient, that your identity isn't rooted in a position, a person, or a possession. It's rooted in being His child. That kind of revelation changes everything. It frees you. It strengthens you. It prepares you to receive blessings without being controlled by them. You see, when God blesses you after a season of stripping, you don't hold the blessing with clenched fists. You hold it with open hands. You understand that it's not your source, it's a gift. You don't idolize it, you steward it. And that kind of perspective is what makes you ready for more. God doesn't want to just bless you. He wants to build you into a person who can carry that blessing with wisdom, humility, and grace. The stripping also gives clarity. When everything is taken, you begin to see what truly matters. The noise fades, the distractions go, and suddenly you can hear God's voice more clearly. You stop chasing superficial success, and you start chasing significance. You stop striving to please people, and you start living to honor God. That clarity is a gift, one that can only be found when everything unnecessary is stripped away. So if you're in a season where things are being removed, don't panic. Don't fight to hold on to what God is asking you to release. Yes, it's painful. Yes, it feels uncertain. But trust that God knows what He's doing. He sees the whole picture. He knows what's coming. And what He's preparing you for is greater than you imagine. The pain of pruning is real, but so is the joy of growth. What God takes away, He replaces with better. What He prunes, He plans to multiply. Remember the story of Job? He lost everything, his wealth, his health, his family. He was stripped to the core, but he never lost his faith. And in the end, God restored him double, not just financially, but spiritually. Job's understanding of God deepened. His character was strengthened, and his story became a testimony for generations. The stripping wasn't the end, it was the setup for a greater beginning. So don't resist the stripping, don't fear the removal, don't mourn what God is trying to free you from. Instead, lean in, surrender, let go. Because every time God takes something from your hands, it's because He wants to place something better in them. And every time He empties your life of one thing, it's because He plans to fill it with something far more valuable. God is not done with you. The stripping is not the final chapter. It's the preparation, the transformation, the cleansing before the blessing. And when the blessing comes, you'll be ready. Not just to receive it, but to carry it, protect it, and honor the one who gave it. When you are on the verge of something great, when God is about to release something big into your life, the resistance intensifies. It's not your imagination, it's spiritual warfare. The closer you get to your breakthrough, the louder the opposition becomes. The enemy gets nervous when he sees you approaching your divine appointment, and so he throws distractions, discouragement, and delay in your path. Not because you're losing, but because you're about to win. In fact, one of the clearest signs that God is about to do something major in your life is that the battle suddenly gets harder. This is a principle you can see over and over again in Scripture. Right before the Israelites entered the Promised Land, they had to face Jericho, a city with walls so high and strong it looked impenetrable. Just before Jesus began His public ministry, He was led into the wilderness to be tempted by Satan. Before David took the throne, he was chased by King Saul and hid in caves for years. In every one of these cases, the greatest resistance came just before the greatest relief. The enemy knows when your season is changing even before you do. That's why the attacks get more personal, the pressure gets more intense, and the confusion gets more persistent. You might find yourself under emotional strain. You start doubting yourself, questioning your worth, and replaying past mistakes. Relationships suddenly become strained. People you trusted walk away. Opportunities you were sure about begin to fall apart. Doors that looked open shut suddenly. These aren't coincidences. These are signs. It's spiritual turbulence, and it usually comes right before you hit spiritual elevation. The enemy isn't attacking you because of your past. He's attacking you because of your future. When the enemy sees that you're getting close to alignment with God's plan, he tries to destabilize you. He wants to make you second guess what God has told you. He wants to distract you with fear, anxiety, frustration, and even fatigue. He wants to pull your focus away from God and fix it on the circumstances. But this is where you must stand firm. You must recognize that warfare is not always a sign of something going wrong. Often it's a sign that something is going right. When you feel overwhelmed and under attack, it's not the time to shrink back, it's the time to lean in. The enemy wants you to retreat, to back off, to quit just before the breakthrough. Don't give him that satisfaction. Hold your position. Remember that the enemy doesn't fight those who aren't a threat. The fact that you're under pressure is proof that you're carrying something powerful. Your obedience is dangerous. Your faith is a weapon. Your purpose is a threat to darkness. In these moments of warfare, prayer becomes your lifeline. You may not be able to control the chaos around you, but you can anchor yourself in God's presence. You can press into His promises and remind yourself of what He said. The Bible is full of declarations for such times. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Isaiah 54:17. Greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. 1 John 4:4. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14. These are not just comforting phrases. They are battle strategies. Speak them. Pray them. Stand on them. Another thing to remember during heightened spiritual warfare is that isolation is a tactic of the enemy. When life gets hard, the tendency is to withdraw. You stop reaching out. You stop showing up. You begin to suffer in silence. But the enemy works best in isolation. He amplifies lies when you're alone. That's why you need community more than ever during these times. Surround yourself with people who can pray for you, speak truth into your situation, and remind you of God's faithfulness when you forget. One of the most deceptive lies the enemy tells during these seasons is that nothing is happening, and all your obedience, all your faith, all your prayers have been in vain. But don't fall for it. God is always working, even when you don't see results. In fact, some of the biggest moves of God begin invisibly. Seeds grow underground before they sprout into view. Foundations are laid before buildings rise. The womb is quiet before birth cries are heard. Just because you can't see the evidence doesn't mean the promise isn't being fulfilled. What the enemy cannot stop, he tries to delay. What he cannot destroy, he tries to distract. But if you can stay focused, if you can resist the urge to give up when things get hardest, you will step into what God has promised. This season of resistance is not meant to break you, it's meant to build you. It's God's way of training your hands for battle and strengthening your spirit for the weight of the blessing that's coming. There's something else important to recognize. Not all attacks come with obvious pain. Sometimes the enemy will tempt you with convenience. He'll offer you shortcuts to purpose, easy alternatives that feel good but take you off course. He'll try to get you to compromise your values, to settle for less than you're worth, to silence your voice in exchange for temporary comfort. But beware, blessings that come without God's timing and preparation often carry hidden costs. True favor requires faithfulness. When God is about to release something big into your life, you may also experience a period where everything feels unstable. What once felt certain begins to shake. This shaking isn't random, it's God's way of removing what cannot sustain your next level. He will shake relationships, routines, and even parts of your identity, not to harm you, but to reveal what's unshakable. What remains after the shaking is what you're meant to carry forward. In these moments, your spiritual endurance is tested. Will you still believe when your feelings don't match your faith? Will you still obey when there's no applause or approval? Will you still worship when your heart is weary? That's when true strength is formed. That's when your roots go deep. That's when heaven takes notice. Anyone can believe when it's easy. But those who hold on in the fire are the ones God can trust with the furnace of purpose. So if you're in a fight right now, spiritual, emotional, or even mental, know this. You're not losing, you're leveling up, you're not abandoned, you're advancing. God hasn't forgotten you, He's fortifying you. He's making sure that when the blessing comes, you won't be crushed by it. He's training you to carry the weight of glory. And when the breakthrough comes, and it will make sense why the battle had to be so intense. Keep standing, keep praying, keep trusting, because the warfare is a signal, a sign, a spiritual indicator that something big is on the horizon. Don't give up right before the victory. Don't quit right before the miracle. The resistance is real, but so is your reward. And what's coming will be worth every tear, every trial, and every test. When God is about to give you something big, He doesn't just place it in your hands. He first prepares you to carry it, and preparation almost always involves stretching. This stretch is not physical, it's spiritual, emotional, and mental. It's the expansion of your inner capacity. to hold what God is about to release into your life. You've been praying for increase, for opportunity, for breakthrough, but increase requires space. And to create that space, God stretches your faith, your trust, your patience, and your endurance. Stretching is uncomfortable. It pulls you beyond your limits. It takes you out of your comfort zone and places you in unfamiliar territory where you're forced to depend on God like never before. You feel the tension between where you are and where you're being called to go. You feel the pressure of responsibility increasing before the reward ever arrives. This is not an accident, it's divine design. God knows what's coming and He knows what it will take for you to sustain it. So He allows the stretch not to punish you, but to prepare you. When you lift weights in the gym, the goal isn't to remain comfortable. It's to tear the muscle just enough so that it can rebuild stronger. The same is true in your spiritual walk. God allows resistance to come into your life, not to crush you, but to build spiritual muscle. Every time you go through something that stretches your patience, you gain strength. Every time you endure a delay without complaining, your faith grows. Every time you obey when it's hard, your spirit becomes more mature. And that maturity is what allows you to handle what you once only dreamed of having. God will not give you a blessing that your character cannot hold. He will not open a door that your integrity cannot walk through. So the stretching becomes a process of enlargement, not just externally, but internally. He is enlarging your heart to love more deeply. He is enlarging your vision to see beyond limitations. He is enlarging your mindset to believe beyond logic. What used to scare you now becomes normal. What once felt impossible now becomes the new standard. That's what the stretch does. It increases your capacity. The stretching doesn't just increase, it also exposes, it reveals the weak spots in your faith. It shows you where you're still holding on to fear, where you're still relying on yourself instead of God. In those vulnerable moments, you may feel discouraged. You may feel like you're not ready, but that's when God does His greatest work. He doesn't need you to be perfect. He needs you to be willing to be stretched, willing to be molded, willing to be transformed. One of the greatest areas God stretches is trust. He allows situations where you can't see the full picture, where the plan doesn't make sense, where you have to move forward without all the answers. Why? Because He's teaching you to walk by faith, not by sight. If you only moved when everything was certain, that wouldn't require trust. But trust is built in the unknown. It's developed in the dark, and once it's built, it becomes unshakable. There may be seasons where you feel like everything is being pushed to the edge. Your finances, your emotions, your energy, your relationships. These aren't just random pressures. They are stretches. God is increasing your capacity to depend on Him fully. And when you finally do, you'll realize that He was always enough, that the stretch wasn't meant to break you, it was meant to lead you to the one who never breaks. Another key aspect of stretching is obedience. God will often ask you to do things that don't make sense to your natural mind. He may tell you to give when you feel like you need to receive. He may ask you to serve when you feel like you should be leading. He may call you to forgive when you're still hurting. All of these moments are divine stretches. They don't always feel logical, but they are always transformational. Every act of obedience enlarges your soul. Every yes to God takes you one step closer to your calling. As you are stretched, you'll also notice your ability to handle pressure improves. What used to shake you doesn't shake you anymore. What used to overwhelm you no longer has that power. That's growth. That's strength. That's resilience. And God is building all of that into you before He gives you the next level. Because big blessings come with big responsibilities. And if He gave it to you without the stretching process, you might mishandle it or collapse under its weight. Think of a wineskin. In biblical times, new wine required new wineskins, ones that could stretch without bursting. If old, rigid wineskins were used, the fermentation of the wine would cause them to break. God says the same thing about your life. He's pouring something new into you, a new season, a new opportunity, a new assignment, and it requires a flexible, stretchable heart. If you stay stuck in old mindsets, old patterns, or rigid routines, you'll burst under the pressure of the new. But if you allow yourself to be stretched, you'll be able to hold what God is pouring out. So the next time you feel stretched, don't resist it. Don't run from it. Don't despise it. Lean into it. Embrace the process. Trust that God is making room inside of you for something you haven't seen yet. Know that the discomfort has a purpose, and remember that every great move of God is preceded by a stretch in the spirit. You are being prepared for more impact, more influence, more authority, more joy, more clarity. But the more won't come to the version of you that stays comfortable. It comes to the one who is willing to be stretched. The one who said yes in the uncertain. The one who kept believing even while waiting. The one who allowed God to expand their heart before he expanded their territory. God is not stretching you to embarrass you. He's stretching you to empower you. He's calling you higher. He's calling you deeper. And though the process may be uncomfortable now, the results will be undeniable later. What's on the other side of this stretch is bigger than anything you can imagine. So hold on. Stay faithful. Keep growing. Because the stretch is the signal. The stretching means you're close. The stretching means he trusts you. The stretching means something big is coming. There comes a moment in every journey of faith when everything seems to shift suddenly. After what feels like endless waiting, wrestling, and refining, God begins to move, and when he does, it often happens faster than you expected. What once seemed out of reach becomes possible. What felt like a distant dream becomes your new reality. This sudden shift is not accidental. It is the culmination of everything God has been doing behind the scenes. He has been aligning situations, healing wounds, maturing your character, and preparing your spirit. And when the appointed time arrives, what was once delayed comes together with divine speed. But this suddenness doesn't mean that the blessing came out of nowhere. It may appear sudden to others and even to you, but in truth it was years in the making. God has a rhythm that doesn't always match ours. He is not rushed by our impatience, nor delayed by our confusion. He works in what the Bible calls kairos time, an appointed time, a divine moment when everything aligns perfectly with his will. And when that moment comes, things move quickly. That's why the waiting season is so critical. You might spend months, years even, seeing no visible progress. You pray, you fast, you believe, and still nothing seems to change. People may doubt you. You may begin to doubt yourself. But God is not idle in your waiting. He is working in silence, preparing you for the moment when everything shifts. He's not just preparing the blessing for you. He's preparing you for the blessing. Think of a farmer who plants seeds in the ground. He doesn't see results immediately. In fact, for weeks it may seem like nothing is happening. But underneath the soil, those seeds are taking root. The deeper the roots go, the stronger the plant will be when it finally breaks through the surface. And then one day, almost suddenly, the sprout appears. In the same way, your spiritual roots are growing in the dark. Your character, your humility, your endurance, they're all being developed quietly so that when the breakthrough comes, you'll be able to sustain it. When God starts moving suddenly, it's important to be ready. He will do in a moment what you couldn't do in a lifetime. He'll open doors you didn't knock on. He'll bring connections you didn't even pursue. He'll provide resources you didn't expect. And it won't be because you forced it. It will be because you were prepared for it. That's the difference between a blessing and a burden. Whether or not you're ready to carry it, God's timing ensures that when he gives you something big, you won't just receive it. You'll thrive with it. This kind of sudden breakthrough is seen throughout the Bible. Joseph spent years in slavery and prison, seemingly forgotten. But in one day he was brought before Pharaoh, interpreted a dream, and was elevated to second in command over all of Egypt. It happened suddenly, but it was years in the making. Esther, an orphan girl, spent time being prepared for her role as queen. And in one divine moment, she stepped into her assignment and saved her people. Jesus, too, waited 30 years before beginning his public ministry, and once he did, everything unfolded rapidly. These are not coincidences, they are patterns. God often works slowly in your development, so he can move quickly in your destiny. What takes years to build within you, faith, wisdom, obedience, prepares you for what he will release suddenly. And when it comes, it will feel like everything is happening at once. Opportunities will appear, people will start paying attention, fruit will begin to grow. But you'll know it wasn't random, it was God. This sudden shift also has a purpose beyond your own blessing. God promotes people not just to reward them, but to position them. Your breakthrough isn't just for you. It's meant to serve others. Joseph's sudden promotion wasn't just about getting out of prison. It was about saving nations from famine. Your breakthrough will open doors for others to be inspired, encouraged, and changed. God blesses you to make you a blessing. So what should you do when things begin to happen suddenly? First, stay grounded. Don't let the speed of the shift pull you into pride or panic. Remember who got you here. Stay rooted in humility and gratitude. Continue to seek God daily, just as you did in the wilderness. The same discipline that sustained you in the valley is what will protect you on the mountain. Second, stay focused. With sudden success can come sudden distractions. New doors, new relationships, and new responsibilities will demand your attention. You'll need discernment to know which opportunities are divine and which are detours. Not every open door is from God. Stay in tune with His voice and don't move ahead of His leading. Third, stay faithful. Don't let comfort replace commitment. The temptation after breakthrough is to relax spiritually, to stop doing the things that got you there. But your consistency is what God used to shape you, and He will continue to use it to sustain you. Keep praying, keep serving, keep giving, keep growing. Also understand that sudden blessings can bring sudden challenges. Promotion brings visibility. Influence brings responsibility. Not everyone will celebrate your breakthrough. Some will question it, others will envy it. But remember, you were built for this. God stretched you, refined you, and trusted you with what others cannot carry. Don't shrink back when the pressure rises. Stand firm, knowing that God has already equipped you for the weight of your calling. In moments of sudden breakthrough, always return to the one who gave it. It's easy to fall in love with the result and forget the source. But the same God who opened the door can also shut it. Keep Him at the center. Worship Him more, not less. Thank Him more, not just once. Make your platform a place of praise, not pride. Finally, encourage others as you rise. Share your story. Be transparent about your process. Let people know it wasn't easy, that it wasn't instant, and that it wasn't about you. Be a voice that points others to the same God who lifted you up. Because in the end, it's not about sudden success, it's about eternal significance. So you've been waiting, preparing, crying, stretching. Don't lose heart. Your suddenly may be just around the corner. God has not forgotten you. He's been orchestrating everything, and when He moves, it will be undeniable. What once felt stuck will start to flow. What seemed impossible will become reality, and you'll know it wasn't sudden at all. It was strategic. It was divine. It was right on time.